Good day to you all. Welcome to Metric Hub. Today I'm going to do a term 2 examination revision. So I'm going to revise a full paper. It is a full paper revision, right? So this paper was written last year, June, in Free State, in the Free State province, right? Those are what we call provincial assessments, right? So I'm going to do business studies paper 1. Business studies paper 1. Please take note. This paper is a must to watch. You must watch the video from the start to the end. You must watch this video from the start to the end, right? So that you will not regret it. You will not regret it, right? So let's go quickly to question 1. Let's go to question 1, right? So, question 1.1. Various options are provided as possible answers to the following questions. Choose the answer and write only the letter A to D next to the question number, right? So we are going to write the question number and you write your answer, right? A to D options, right? So let's go to 1.11. The aim of this act is to protect customers against unfair, reckless lending by businesses. So which act protects the customers? That's what you call the Consumer Protection Act. The Consumer Protection Act is there to protect the customers, right? Or consumers against maybe poor quality products, against poor service deliveries, right? So this one is not an option, but it is also, it protects the consumers, right? Employment Equity Act, right, ensures that the employees are equally treated and fairly treated within an organization, right? It also caters for disadvantaged, designated groups in the employment, right? You're talking about the colors, the blacks, right? The Indians, etc. And then the Labor Relations Act deals with labor regulations, right? It deals with um, working conditions, wages and salaries, as well as benefits, right? So the correct answer is the National Credit Act, lending. So the answer is the National Credit Act, right? It protects consumers against unfair, reckless lending by businesses, right? Let's go to 1.12. This act requires businesses to report all employees' accidents and illness that occur during working hours, right? Let's look at the options. Skills Development Act, it is there to improve the skills of employees within an organization so that they can be able to meet the global demands, they can be able to compete in the global labor market, right? And then broad-based Black Economic Employment Act, it is there to ensure that the blacks are included in business ownership, right, in short. And then Consumer Protection Act, we talked about it, right, in the previous question, right, whereby we say it protects customers or consumers, right? It protects consumers against, right, poor quality products, right? So the answer is the compensation for occupational injuries and diseases. It reports employees' accidents and illness, right? That's compensation for occupational injuries and diseases. Right, let's go to 1.13. Which one of the following businesses may be classified under the tertiary sector, right? Remember, tertiary sector, it deals with what? Services, it provides services. Tertiary sector provides services to the entire business environment, provides services, right? So let's go to option A, Impala Coal Mine. This one is a primary. This one is a primary sector, right? It deals with extraction of raw materials, right? And then the Cape Vineyard Farm, it is also a what? A primary business sector, right? Because it deals with raw materials, production of raw materials, right? And then True Furniture Manufacturers. These ones are manufacturers. They are in the secondary sector, right? And then Fox Bank is the correct answer. That's the tertiary sector. It deals with money lending, right, to the business, right, and also bank services to the businesses, right? That's what you call a tertiary sector. Let's go to 1.14. The dash function ensures reliable capturing and storing of information, right? This is the purchasing department deals with buying, right? They buy raw materials, right? They also buy machineries, right? Anything that has to do with the buying, it is done in the purchasing department, right? And then the human resource department deals with the recruitment, promotion of employees. It also deals with uh, motivation of employees within an organization, right? As well as induction, right? etc. Right? It deals with this, right? And then the production department is there to convert. They are responsible for converting raw materials into finished products. They are responsible for converting raw materials into finished products. That's the production department, right, or a function. And then the administration deals with capturing. They capture, they also store information, right? They capture and store information. So this is the correct answer, right? So let's go to question 1.15. The process of matching a new employee's skills and ability with the requirements of a job is known as, right? When we match the new employee's skills and ability with the job requirements, that's what you call placement. Placement, right? When we match the new employee's skills and abilities, right, with the requirements of the job. That's what you call the placement process. Selection, we are eliminating. It is a process of eliminating candidates who do not meet the job requirements. The job requirements, right? That's what you call selection when we are eliminating, right? Recruitment is a process of what? Identifying. When we identify, when we attract, and when we choose the best candidate, who meets the job requirements, That's what you call recruitment, when we identify, when we attract that employee, right? And then training, it is the acquisition of skills, of knowledge, right? Right. That's what you call training, when we acquire skills, knowledge, abilities, right? That's what you call training, right? So placement, it is when we match the news employees' skills and abilities with the job requirements, right? So let's quickly move on to the next question. Right, here you are supposed to complete the following sentences or statements by using the words in the list below, right? You need to write only the letter, right? Or the words next to the question number, right? So let's go to question 1.21. Risky received dash his normal rate of pay for working on a public holiday. So according to the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, this one is the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, right? A person working on a public holiday is supposed to receive a double salary, right, on that particular holiday, right? Let's go to 1.22. The dash vertical integration strategy is used when a business combines with the distributor of their products, right? Right. So when we're talking about vertical integration, remember the vertical line. Remember the vertical line. This is the business, right? So a business can um, uh, vertically integrate upwards, right? Or it can also integrate forward, right? Upwards, we have, for example, if it's a retail or maybe a manufacturing business. Upwards, you can find that it might integrate with its suppliers, right? And forward, it can integrate with its distributors, like retailers, right? So the dash vertical integration strategy is used when a business combines with the distributors. So this one. So that's what we call the forward integration. The forward integration. What it integrates with the retailers. Those are the distributors, retailers, like shops, supermarkets, right? So let's go to 1.23. Daylights Incorporated used dash recruitment when they advertised a position for a new production manager in the local newspaper, right? That's what you call external. When they advertise in the newspaper, meaning to say they're attracting, right, available candidates in the labor market, right? Local newspaper, meaning to say it's an external recruitment, right? So let's go to 1.24. The TQM elements dash allows for quality control checks and procedures at a key points, right? So this one is the element of monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation. It allows for quality control checks and procedures at the key points, right? So let's go to 1.25. Candidates' application forms are checked against the requirements of the job during what you call the screening process. They check the candidates' requirements, right? They check the candidates' application forms against the requirements, whereby those ones who do not have the requirements will be screened out. Right, that's what you call the screening process. The screening process. Right. Let's move on to the next question. 1.3. Here you are supposed to choose the description from column B that matches column A. Right. So column A, right? 1.31, National Skills Development Strategy, right? Remember, the skills development strategy is all about skills development, right? Whereby it provides trainings and developments, right, for employees, right? So what is the National Skills Development Strategy? National Skills Development Strategy, right? So this one, it provides for a system of credits that learners receive when they complete learnership, right? That's C, right? Let's move on to question 1.32, SWOT analysis. Remember, SWOT analysis is an abbreviation for strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. These are what we call internal, right? Internal factors, right? Right, that the business has control over. And you see, SWOT analysis, it has internal and external, right? External environment, right? So when a business is internally analyzing the environment, right? So the answer is E, analyze the external and internal environment of the business. SWOT is for strength, X for strength, right? And then W for weaknesses. W for weaknesses, and then O for opportunities. Opportunities, and T for threats, right? It will analyze, it helps the organization to analyze its strength, its weaknesses, its opportunities, and its strength. So S and W, it analyzes the internal, and then O and T analyze the external environment, right? So internal environment, they'll be analyzing what are our strengths, what are those things that the organization can be at an advantage compared to its competitors? What about the weaknesses? It analyzes the disadvantages that the business has over its competitors. And then external environment, whereby they are looking in the external environment and see or they are looking in the business environment to check if what are the opportunities for the business, opportunity that the business has in the business environment? What about the threats that the business has in the business environment, right? So let's move on to question 1.33, learnership, right? Learnership, right? So the answer here is E, right? And then learnership, right? So learnership is all about training opportunities that can lead to a recognized occupational qualification, right? That's what you call a learnership. Learnership. There is a training whereby you're trained, right? So that you can be having a qualification, right? You can be given a qualification, right? So let's go to 1.34, quality circles, right? So quality circles, they are normally small groups, right? Committees, right? Within an organization, right? They are normally small group committees within an organization, right? So these groups, they create harmony and high performance in the workplace. They create, so they are, those quality circles can work together to solve problems and to brainstorm, right, problems as well, right? So they create harmony and high performance within an organization. Right, let's go to 1.35, employment contract. Right. An employment contract is an agreement between the employer and the employee, right? Which is legally binding. It can be written, it can be verbal, or it can be by conduct, right? So an agreement between the employer and the employee that is legally binding, right? So on in an employment contract, the employee will agree to work uh, um, with the employer, right? He agreed to offer his services to the employer under his supervision and control in return for remuneration or compensation. Right. So let's move on to the next question, section B, whereby you're supposed to answer any two questions. But because of revision, I'm going to answer all questions. Right. So let's go to question two, business environments. Right. So let's go to 2.1. Listed two rights that consumers have according to the Consumer Protection Act, right? So I'm going to list rights that the consumers have according to the Consumer Protection Act, right? So consumers have the right to choose the product that they want to buy. They are not supposed to be forced to buy a product. They have a right to privacy and confidentiality, right? They have a right to privacy and confidentiality. If a company is holding employee information, they're supposed to make sure that they are kept private and confidential, right? They also have the right to fair and honest dealings, to fair and honesty dealings, right? Is a right to fair and honesty dealings, right? They also have the right to disclose information. They have a right to disclose information. Consumers also have a right to return goods and claim refunds. To return goods and claim refunds or replacement. Right. Okay, let's move on to question 2.2. 2.2. Right. Question 2.2. Right. Outline the role of SETAs in supporting the Skills Development Act. Right. So the role of SETA in supporting Skills Development Act is one, it reports to the Director General. Report to the Director General. Reports to the Director General. Right. It also promotes and establish leadership. It promotes and establish leadership. It promotes and establish leadership, right, in a way of supporting the Skills Development Act. It also collects levies and pay out grants as required. Remember, companies, they are supposed to pay levies. Right. It's also supposed to make sure that it also provides accreditation for skills development facilities. It also provides accreditation to facilitators. Right. SETA also approve workplace skills plans. They also approve workplace skills plans. They also monitor the actual training. They monitor the actual training. By service providers. SETA also allocates grants for employers, education and training providers, allocates grants for employers, education. And lastly, they develop skills plans. Right, they develop skills plans. SETA develops skills plans, right, in line with the National Skills Development Act. Right. So let's move on to question 2.3. You are supposed to read the scenario below and answer the questions that follows. Scripta traders are known for selling quality products all over the country. They introduced online transactions for customers in remote areas. ST employees do not have the knowledge or skills to do online transactions and services. Right, let's go to question 2.31. Name the pestle factor pose a threat for ST in the scenario above, right? So let's discuss this pestle. Pestle 2.3, right? Pestle, right? Pestle is an abbreviation, remember, which stands for political. E for economical. S for social. T for technological. L for legal. And E for the environment. Right. So remember, let's go to the scenario, right? Here, it's all about online transactions. So that's what kind of sector factor is this one? It's a technological factor. Ne? That's a technological factor, right? It's all about technology online, right? So on to technological factor, right? So let's move on to question 2.32. Explain ways in which ST can deal with challenges that are posed by the pestle factor identified in 2.3.1, right? What can it do, right? How to deal with technology, right? 2.32, ways to deal with technology. Ways to deal with technology. Ways to deal with technology. Right. So ST can train existing employees. They can train them so that they can be able to use the online transactions. They can also transact online. They can also appoint new employees who have the right qualifications. They can also appoint new employees. We have the right who can be able to can be able to operate that online transaction. They can also do continuous research, right, on the latest available equipment or technology. They can also do continuous research. Right, on the latest available technology in the market. Right. Right. So let's move on to question 2.4. Discuss the impact of the Employment Equity Act on businesses, right? Right. So remember, when we are talking about impact, we are talking about the positive. You need to include the positive and the disadvantages of the act, right? When we are told, you are asked to discuss the impact. Impact refers to the positive. You need to mention the positive and the negative of the employment equity on businesses, right? Right. So let's discuss the impact of what? Of employment equity on businesses. 2.4, right? The impact of EEA, Employment Equity Act, EEA on businesses. So this includes one, you can find that here. Let's discuss the positive one. The positive impact. Right, the positive impact that Employment Equity Act. What are the positive impact that it imposes on the business, right? So you can find that it encourages consultation, between the employer and the employees. Employers and employees. It also promotes equal opportunities. It promotes equal opportunities and fair treatment of all employees. Right. You can find that it also have a positive impact on the BEE ratings. Black Economic Empowerment ratings, BEE, right? It also motivates employees positively. Right. So let's discuss the negative impact. The negative impact of the EEA. The negative impact of the EEA, which are the disadvantages. You can find that it is very expensive. It is a very expensive, especially in training. Expensive to employ someone or to train someone, right, who knows little about the act, right, can find that there are fines or penalties for non-compliance. There are fines for non-compliance for businesses, right. You can find that skilled people from designated groups may demand higher salaries. They may demand higher salaries, which is also a challenge for the business that is not doing well in the business environment. And lastly, you can find that it can result in job hopping, right, of skilled employees, which might result in high labor turnover. Resulting in high staff turnover. So let's move on to question 2.5. Identify the types of defensive strategy that causes construction CC applied in each statement below. 2.51, causes construction sold all their assets to pay creditors. That's what you call it liquidation. Liquidation, the business was liquidated. Right? Liquidation happens when the business decides to close because they cannot be able to pay or sustain the business. So they will end up maybe selling their assets so that they can repay creditors. Right. So let's go to 2.52. Management of Kuzit Construction decided to close the marketing department of the business. Right. When they decide to close the marketing department of the business, right, that's what you call diversification. Diversitude. Right. They decide to divest sure. Right, the business. Right, let's go to 2.53. Causes construction ended in the employment contracts of many workers to save on cost. That's what you call retrenchment. Retrenchment. They decide to retrench some of the employees so that they can be able to save cost. Right. That's a retrenchment. Right. Okay, let's move on to question 2.6. Read the scenario below and answer the questions to follow. Kalicho Logistics complies with the Labor Relations Act of 1995, Act 66 of 1995, by taking the rights of employees into consideration. The employees take part in legal strikes without any fear of victimization. The employees also get locked out by LKL to prevent damage to property and assets. The trade union representatives are given time off to pay attention to various labor duties. Right. Let's go to question 2.61. 2.61, right? So, quote 2 rights of employees according to the Labor Relations Act, right? So the rights is they take part, right? Employees take part in legal strike, right? Remember, here you are told from the scenario, right? From the scenario, taking rights, employees take part in legal strikes without any victimization. This is where I got the answer, right? And then here you're supposed to give 2, right? So trade union representatives are given time off to pay attention to various labor duties, right? That's another one. The trade union representative right, are given time off to pay attention to labor, to various labor duties, right? So let's go to 2.62. Explain any other rights of employees in the Labor Relations Act, right? So there are so many rights, right, that the employees have according to the Labor Relations Act. So one, they have a right to join a trade union. They have a right to join a trade union. To join a trade union. Right. They also have the right to refer disputes to CCMA. Remember, CCMA is an abbreviation for Commission of Conciliation, Mediation, and Arbitration, right? They also have the right to refer unsolved CCMA disputes to labor courts. Refer unresolved disputes to labor court. Right. They also have the right to request the trade union to assist in the grievance. They also have the right to request the trade unions to assist in grievance. They also have the right to ask the assistance of the trade union in grievance or in disciplinary hearing. Right. So these are the rights of employees according to Labor Relations Act, according to the Labor Relations Act, right? So let's move on to question 2.6, okay, 2.7. right? Advise businesses on benefits of intensive strategies, right? Intensive strategies, right? Benefits, right? So, intensive strategy benefits includes it increases sales, right? You can find that it also gains customer loyalty. Business will gain customer loyalty. The business can also improve services, delivery. It can also eliminate competitors. Right, and can be able to dominate the market. Business can be able to decrease prices, right? Decrease in price could influence customers to buy more products, right? Decrease in prices can influence customers to buy more products, right? Right. And also you can find that it increases the organization's market share. The market share of the business in the business environment, right? Right. So regular sales to existing customers also might also increase, increases, right? Right. So let's move on to question 3. Business operations, right? List the 2 components of a job analysis. A job analysis consists of 2 components, which is the job description and a job specification. These are the components of what? Of a job analysis, right? So let's go to question 3.2. Outline selection procedure as a human resource activity. The selection procedure is a human resource activity, right? The selection procedure is a human resource selection procedure activity, right? So here I'm going to list the procedure, selection procedure. Remember, selection, we are now eliminating, right? Candidates who do not meet the job requirements. So the screening process also takes place, right? Right. So step number 1, right? Step number 1, you need to determine the fair assessment. You need to determine fair assessment. You determine the fair assessment criteria. Which criteria are you going to use to eliminate, right? On which selection will be based, right? We need to determine which criteria are we going to use, right, to select candidates. And then step number 2, we are supposed to make sure that applicants must submit their application forms or CVs. The application forms and CVs or CVs curriculum vitae, right? Right. And then step number 3, that's when we sort out received forms. We sort out received application forms, right, and CVs. Right. Once we sort out, we go to step number 4, when we then now screen. We screen, right, which applicants meet the minimum job requirements. Right. Once we've done that, we go to step number 4. That's when we do what you call when we then do what you call preliminary interview. Right. We conduct what you call preliminary interviews. Right. We conduct what you call preliminary interviews. And then step number 6, that's when we compile, we do reference checks. To check the authenticity of the provided submitted documents. We check the authenticity by doing reference checks, right? So during reference checks, we need to conduct even the previous employer need to check work experience. And then once we've done that, we compile a short list. We compile a short list, right, of potential candidates. Once we've done that, we go to step number 8. Step number 8, whereby we shortlist this. We do what you call a selection test. Selection tests are conducted. We are talking about aptitude test, intelligence test, motion test, right? They are conducted, skills test, etc. And then after that, we then invite those candidates for a second interview. What you call initial interview. We invite them for an initial interview. Right. Once we've done that, we go to step number 10, and then we can give a written employment offer is given, right, is given to selected candidates. So these are the steps involved in the selection process. You determine fair assessments or criteria on how we are going to select candidates. And once we have done that, we submit the applicants will submit their CVs, right? And then we sort out the received CVs and documents. We then screen which applicants meet the job requirements. We do preliminary interviews. We have to do reference checks. We have to compile a short list for potential candidates. We need to select the best tests. Selection tests are conducted, and then invite candidates for initial interviews, and then we can offer a written employment offer. We can give an offer of employment, right, to the selected candidates, right? So let's move on to the next question, which is question 3.3, right? Read the scenario below and answer the questions that follows. Muhle Construction Pty Private Limited, right? Muhle Construction is a leading company which is known for its excellence service delivery. BC attracts skilled employees who contribute positively toward the business goals. They increase employee satisfaction as they go an extra mile, right? 3.31, quote two benefits of fringe benefits from the scenario. Right. Benefits of fringe benefits from the scenario, right? One, it can attract skilled employees, right, who positively contribute towards the business. It increases employee satisfaction as they go in extra mile. So this 1 and 2, right, from the scenario, right? So let's go to question 3.32. Explain the negative impact of fringe benefits on business, right? What are the negative impacts of fringe benefits on business, right? 3.32. Negative impacts of fringe benefits on businesses. Right. One, you can find that businesses who could not offer fringe benefits may not attract skilled employees. Okay. Right. Who cannot offer fringe benefits will not attract skilled employees, right? Fringe benefits can also increase conflicts. It also creates conflicts within an organization, whereby someone might feel that they are not allocated fairly, right? You can find that it is an additional cost. It is also an additional cost to the business. Right. Fringe benefits can also decreases in business. You can find that you can find that mistakes in benefits plans may lead to costly lawful suits. All right. Mistakes in benefit plans may lead to costly lawful suits or fines, right? But it also leads to additional administration cost. Benefits can also lead to additional administration costs. And you can find that workers may end up staying in right with the business for fringe benefits, not for loyalty. They may end up only staying right with the business for fringe benefits and not for loyalty. Right, which is also a negative impact, right, for fringe benefits. Let's move on to question 3.4. Differentiate between quality management and quality performance. Right, we're going to differentiate between quality assurance and quality management and quality performance, right? So, right, quality management and quality performance, right? There's a difference between quality management and quality performance. You can find that quality management are just tools used to design and to improve the quality of the products, right? Right. Tools used to, these are tools used to design or improve the quality of a product. While the quality performance is the total performance of each department. Of each department. Measured against the specified standards. Right. So according to the differences in definition, tools used to design or improve quality of the product. That's what we call quality management, right? And then quality performance is the total performance of what? Of each department measured against the specified standards, right? Right. So quality management can be used for accountability, can be used for accountability, right? Within each of the business functions, While its quality management can be obtained, it can be obtained if all departments work together. It can be obtained if all departments work together, right, towards the same quality standards, towards the same quality standards. Right, right. And then quality management normally aims to ensure that the quality of goods and services are consistent, right, on the means to achieve consistency. Right? It aims to ensure that the quality of goods or services consistency. Right? So it focuses on the means to achieve consistency. Whilst quality performance is whereby quality is measured through a physical product. Right. Right. So let's move on to question 3.5. Read the scenario below and answer the questions. Lesedi Agency Limited deals with shuffle services. LA has enough resources to prevent defects and minimize wastage. They also ensure that their employees attend workshops on a regular basis. Identify two total quality management elements applied by LA. Right. These are the two total management qualities that was applied. Continuous continuous improvement to processes and systems. Right. Right. Three point five one. Right. Total quality element. Right. Right. Whereby we're talking about continuous improvement. It is an element, right? improvement to processes and systems, right? So how to motivation when in the scenario, when they make sure that they prevent defects and minimize wastage, right? That's the motivation. They prevent defects and minimize wastages. Right. Defects. Right. And then another total quality element. Another total quality element is the continuous skills development and education. Continuous skills development and training. Whereby they say they ensure that their employees attend workshop on a regular basis. Right. Ensures that their employees attend workshops right on a regular basis. Right. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Right, which is question 3.52. Right. Advise businesses on the benefits of a good quality management. Advises the business. Right. Sorry. Question 3.52. Discuss the impact of any total quality element identified in question 3.51. Right. The impact of continuous improvement in processes. In processes and systems. That's the total quality system. So we want to discuss the impact of this element, right? One, you can find that we have the positive impact. So let's discuss the positive impact, right? One, you can find that the business will have more resources, right? Right, we can find that there will be enough capital, resources available, right? And also you can find that willing to take risks, all right? may end up resulting in new processes and systems. Willing to take risks. Right. New processes. The business will be willing to take risks, right? And you can find that large businesses have a person dedicated to the improvement of what? Large businesses have a person, right, dedicated. There's someone who is dedicated, right, to the improvement of quality in processes and systems, right? Right. So let's talk about the negative influence of the total quality negative impact, right? You can find that large-scale manufacturing can complicate complicate quality control, can complicate quality control. Two, you can find that systems and processes take time and effort to implement in large businesses. Takes time and effort to implement in large businesses. There will be a risk of changing parts of the business, right, that are working well. Right. Okay, let's move on to question 4. Question 4, right. 4.1, right. Business environments are name 2 types of business sectors. Types of business sectors includes, we have the primary, also have the secondary, and the tertiary business sectors, right? We've discussed this in question 1. Right. So let's go to question 4.2. Right. Elaborate on practical ways in which business can employ the National Credit Act. Right. Ways in which a business can apply the right. In other words, we're going to answer on the application of the National Credit Act applications of National Credit Act, right? So one, the business can offer applicants pre-agreement statements. Pre-agreement statements. The business can disclose all cost business can disclose all cost, right? No hidden cost should be charged, right? The business should be registered with the National Credit Regulator. With the National Credit Regulators, right? And also we can find that the business has to conduct credit checks. The business has to conduct credit checks with the registered credit bureau. Right. Okay, let's move on to question 4.3. Right. Read the following statements and answer the question that follows. Lee Manufacturing, Lee Manufacturing design and manufacture quality footwear. They employ more Black women in managerial positions to comply with BBBEE. They also sell shares to Black people to enable them to take part in the economy of the country. Right. So let's go to question 4.31. Identify two pillars of broad-based Black Employment Empowerment Act that used in the scenario. Motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario, right? So the first one is the management control. Management control, right? From the scenario, they employ more Black women in managerial positions, right? And then the number two, ownership. Ownership, whereby they say they sell shares to the Black, this is number one. Number two here, they sell shares to the Black people to enable them to take part in the economy of the country. Right. These are the motivation. Right. Let's go to 4.32. Suggest ways in which the business may apply the BBBEE pillars in the workplace below. Skills development. The business can apply BBBEE in skills development. Right. Question 4.32. Right. 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 Skills development. Right. Here, the business must make sure that they develop Black employees by developing Black employees through training and education. They can also provide leadership and learning programs. To Black people. The business can also make sure that the Black employees benefit from the increased pool of skills. Right. They should benefit from the increased pool of skilled workers. Right. And also, the business must contribute 1% of their payroll to fund the skills development programs. Skill development programs. Right. Okay, let's move on to another question. How ways in which a business may apply the BBBEE pillars in the workplace below, right? Enterprise and supply development, right? Right. Enterprise and supply development, whereby the business must create jobs, right? Promotes the business can create jobs. Open 3.3. Businesses to create jobs. Right. As ESB promotes local manufacturing. As it promotes local manufacturing. Right. Right. It's supposed to make sure that they identify Black-owned suppliers that can supply goods and services. Suppliers. There's some make so that they outsource services to suppliers that are BBBEE compliance. Outsource services to suppliers who are BBBEE compliance. Right. So let's go to question 5. Question 5. Question 5. Right. Business operations. Name 4 aspects of employment contract. Aspects of employment contracts. Right. So here you are asked to mention the details of an employment contract or details, right, in the employment contract, right? So we have the it consists of personal details of both the employer and of both the employer and the employee, right? Consists of the details of business or the employer, or details of the company or the organization. It also consists of the job title or position. It also consists of the job description. It also has the job specification. It also consists of the work hours of work. It also consists of remuneration, which is the money that the employee will receive on a regular basis, right? It also consists of benefits, leave, deductions, as well as promotion period. So these are the details of the employment contract, of the employment contract. Right. Okay, let's move on to question 4.5. Right, 4.5. Right. So outline the importance of training development in human resource management. Importance of training development in human resource management. You can find that training, the employee who receive the necessary training can be able to performance, right? Good performance, right? Right. Right. We can also find that employees may feel valued if they are trained. Valued by the organization when the organization invests in their in them by training and development, right? Right. So let's move on to question 4.6. 4.6. Read the scenario below and answer the question, right? Bahlokwa are holding several different types of products across real estate. Mupo, the manager, monitors and controls stock to prevent theft. She also orders the stock timelessly and makes a follow-up to ensure goods are delivered on time. Right. So 6.1, 4.61, quote two quality indicators of the following purchasing functions of the from the scenario. The purchasing function. All right. The purchasing function from the scenario. So this includes one, they buy raw materials. Sorry, Mupo manager monitors and controls stock to prevent theft. Right. 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 She also orders stock timelessly to make follow-up to ensure goods are delivered on time. Right. These are the scenarios 1 and 2. Right. Let's go to question 4.62. Right. Explain any other quality indicator of the purchasing function. Right. One, they're supposed to buy raw materials in bulky. They're supposed to select reliable suppliers. They're supposed to make sure that they coordinate purchasing and production departments, effective coordination of purchasing and production department. They're supposed to make sure that the required quantities are delivered on time. On time. Right. So let's move on to question 4.7. Recommend ways in which total quality management can reduce the cost of quality. Right. Ways in which total quality management can reduce quality. Right. One, we need to introduce quality cycles to discuss ways in improving. Introduces quality cycles to discuss ways of improving quality, right? It also, two, they need to schedule activities to eliminate duplication. Duplication of tasks. We need to make sure that they train employees at all levels. Right. They also have to make sure that they develop systems that empower employees to find new ways of improving quality. Develop work systems to improve quality. Right. So let's go to the next question, which is question 5, section C. Section C. Right. Which is the last question. The last question. Right. We are almost done. Right. So answer one question in this scenario. Right. The business environment, or we can choose the business operations, right? So today I'm going to answer all questions, right? So let's go to question 5. The question 5. Question 5. Question 5. Question 5. Right. Right. Business operations. Business environments, right? Strategies. Businesses must follow the strategic management process to succeed. Porter's 5 forces should be used to identify challenges in the market. It is also important to consider the advantages of diversification strategies. Regularly evaluating strategies helps businesses to move forward. Write an essay on business strategies in which you include the following aspects. Right. So here you are supposed to write an essay, remember? So I'm going to give you a guideline on how you will write the essays, right? So we are going to use the following aspects, right? Here you're supposed to first outline the recruitment procedure as a human resource activity, right? The procedure, the recruitment procedure. sorry, you need to outline the strategic management process, right? So here you are going to write the first one. You need to do an introduction, write an introduction. So in an introduction, you can write the business needs a strategy to achieve its various and mission. Therefore, strategic management must take place. You need to make sure that you include the main aim of Porter's 5 model. You're right. You need to include Porter's main aim, right? In analyzing the business positions, the business positions in the market, right? You need to also discuss the diversification strategies in the introduction. All right, which are used to increase sales, right? Also, you need to evaluate strategies of strategies. Right. So in your introduction, you need to include this, and then let's go to the first point, whereby we'll be discussing the what? The strategic management process. So here we are going to list stages in the strategic management process, right? The strategic management process, right? So here you are supposed to start with one. You need to make sure that you have a clear vision or a clear vision. Step number 5, number 1, a clear vision must be in place, or a mission, right, which is clear, right? Right, in place. And then step number 2, whereby you identify opportunities, you identify SWOT, right? SWOT, right? Right. And then step number 3, you then make sure that you identify tools available for environmental scanning. Right. E.g., we have the PESTEL, we have the SWOT, and the Porter's 5 model, right? And then you formulate step number 4, formulate. You need to formulate alternative strategies. Right. And then Step number 4, that's when you develop action plan. This is number 5. You develop action plan. Right. Including the task to be done, deadlines to be met, resources, which includes deadlines, resources, as well as the task to be done. Right. And then lastly, which is step number 6, you implement the strategy. Implement the strategy. Right. So once you've done that, you go to bullet number 2, whereby you're going to explain how the following Porter's model can be applied, right? Power of competitors, right? Right. So application of power of competitors. Of power of competitors. How does competitors influence the business? Right. So we can find that if the competitor have unique product, if the competitor have the unique product, it means that the organization is at a disadvantage. Or a service, it puts the business at a disadvantage. It can then they have greater power, right? Competitors have a greater power, right? So you can find that a business with many competitors in the same market has very little power in the business environment. A business with many competitors in the same market have little power. Right. So you can find that the business can draw up a competitor profile so that they can determine their own strength as well as the strength of the competitors. You can draw up a competitor profile to determine their strength as well as that of competitors, right? So so let's talk about the application of the threats, of new entrants, right, to the business, to the market, right? Can find that if the barrier to entry is low, if the barrier to entry is low, then it is easy for new business or new businesses to enter the market, which is also a threat to the business, right? And also, if there are fewer suppliers of the product, but many buyers, but many buyers, right? Then it is easy to enter the market, right? So, if the business, you find that if the business is highly profitable, right? It will attract competitors right, who enter the market, right? Who enter the market, which is also a threat to the business, all right? Okay, let's move on to advantages of diversification. Advantages of diversification strategy, right? Right. Advantages advantages of the diversification process strategy. Right. Advantages of diversification strategy. It is an advantage because one, it increases sales, and business profits. It also improves business brands. It improves business brands. And images. Right. It also reduces the risk of relying on one product. It reduces the risk of relying on one product. Right. For income. For income. So let's move on to question to the last one, which is advise businesses on steps in strategy evaluation. Right, so here we're going to mention steps in strategy evaluation. Steps in evaluating a strategy, right? Right, one, we need to examine the underlying basis of a business strategy. All right. Two, we need to look forward and backward. Into the implementation process. Two, you need to compare expected the expected revenue right or results to determine the reasons for deviations. And then you take corrective action so that deviations may be corrected. You set specific days for control and follow up. Right. You have to draw a table for advantages and disadvantages. And then after that, you need to decide on the desired results or outcome. You need to consider the impact on this, the impact of strategic implementation. Right. In the internal and external environments of the business, right? And then you consider the impact. Once you have considered the impact, you need to make sure that you decide on the desired outcome, right? You decide on the desired outcome. is investigated when a strategy is implemented. Right. Thank you so much for your time, guys. Let's meet again in the next video, whereby I'll be explaining the last question, which is uh question question 6. Question 6. Right. Thank you so much. Please do not forget to share the video. Do not forget to like it. Make sure that you subscribe so that you will be updated on any video that will benefit you in your oncoming exams. Right. Thank you so much for your time. Please stay blessed. Do not forget to share with your friends. Right. Do not forget to share the video with your classmates. Have a good day.